Sorry about that. Got it caught on the back of the stand and oops. Then I flip it over. I'm just having a wonderful time here. If you're just happening upon, usually I'm not so crazy. Well, I wouldn't go that far. My name is Melany. I'm the pastor at First United Methodist Church in Eaton Rapids, trying to get things going here and seeming to struggle just a bit. Hello, Donna. Welcome, welcome. So I do something called Bible journaling. If this is your first time with us, Bible journaling is basically finding ways to be creative right on the pages of Scripture. So I actually create artwork on the pages of Scripture and do that a multitude of ways. Do it with original artwork, do it with coloring in, kind of like coloring book style, doing it with paint, what's the other one? Scrapbooking. We can glue anything to a page of the Bible. So here's one of those examples. This is done with, I'll get up close so you can see. This is done with a watercolor. You can kind of see right on the edge there as that's blended out, and then some marker in addition to that. But on the same page, there is just a little in the corner, little add in, tip out, tip in, whatever you want to call it, kind of that scrapbooking style. I've been doing a whole bunch of cards. I just put those up in another post to show you what that could look like. You can use that using decorative tape. This is just decorative tape with lettering, stick-on lettering. This one over here is a hand-drawn. It says, written and sealed with the King's signet ring, scheduled to happen on March 7th. So I just did the calendar flipping and then drew myself what looks like a wax signet on a letter. So really it's up to you what you do with it. Hello there, Ruby. Nice to see you. Let's see who else we've got. Oh yeah, it's gonna be stingy. We've got Wendy, we've got Ken. We've got, no, don't get stuck on me now. Just being, we've got Kim. Yep, I already said that. If not, I've got Kim, I've got Donna. No problem. Glad you're with us, home or here. Me and Bella are here, so she's joining me tonight. And we've just got one more Tuesday after tonight. Just wanting to remind you all. And then I take off a couple of months for summer, just on the run and doing all kinds of stuff. And I know you guys have other things to do in the evenings as well. So we'll take off July and August, and then we'll pick back up in September. So tonight we are in Genesis again, and Genesis 8. So last week we saw the water get deeper and deeper, and we saw Noah and his family get on board with all of the animals. And this week, we're going to go into what happened once those waters stopped flowing. Sitting at McDonald's watching. It's cooler here than home. Nice. Good choice there, Ken. I've been cold all day because of the air conditioning going on indoors. So I've actually had a sweater on most of the day. Started talking to you guys and heated me up. So I took it back off. But who knows? It'll be on and off throughout the night, depending on where my midlife crisis heads. And I determine what my temperature zone needs to be. So let's go ahead and get started. Genesis 8. We're going to do a read through first. And I am reading through the NLT, the New Living Translation. You may have another translation, and that's okay. It will just explain why yours might sound just a little bit different than mine. So we're going to start there, and then we will move into a full page of note-taking, everything from people we see, visuals, verses that stand out, and application. But let's start with just the reading. Chapter 8. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and livestock with him in the boat. Let's back up so that makes sense because it's referring back. So rather than starting right there, why don't we go ahead and start at verse 22 in chapter 7 of Genesis. Hey, Jennifer, nice to have you with us. We are in Genesis chapter 8, but we're going to start in verse 22 of 7 just so we get the segue into 8. Everything that breathed and lived on dry land died. God wiped out every living thing on the earth, people, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and the birds of the sky. All were destroyed. The only people who survived were Noah and those with him in the boat, and the flood waters covered the earth for 150 days. Then we get into chapter 8. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and livestock with him in the boat. He sent a wind to blow across the earth, and the flood waters began to recede. The underground waters stopped flowing, and the torrential rains from the sky were stopped. I'm going to say this again because I still cannot believe it. It was in chapter 7, and here it is in 8 again. I never remember reading that waters came out of the ground as well as from the air. I don't know how. Tell me if you all knew this, because I did not. And last week I saw it for the first time, and I'm seeing it again in chapter 8. The underground waters stopped flowing. What? I didn't even know there were underground waters. And I've read this story, 30 times. The torrential rains from the sky were stopped, so the floodwaters gradually receded from the earth. After 150 days, exactly 5 months from the time the flood began, the boat came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. 2.5 months later, as the waters continued to go down, other peaks became visible. 5 months, 6 months, 6.5 months, 7.5 months. Wow, with all those animals. Just saying. Genesis 8, verse 6. After another 40 days, Noah opened the window he had made in the boat and released a raven. The bird flew back and forth until the flood waters on the earth had dried up. He also released a dove to see if the water had receded and it could find dry land. But the dove could find no place to land because the water still covered the ground. So it returned to the boat. And Noah held out his hand and drew the dove back inside. After waiting another 7 days, Noah released the dove again. This time the dove returned to him in the evening with a fresh olive leaf in its beak. Then Noah knew that the flood waters were almost gone. He waited another 7 days and then released the dove again. This time it did not come back. Noah was now 601 years old. On the first day of the new year, 10.5 months after the flood began, the flood waters had almost dried up from the earth. Noah lifted back the covering of the boat and saw that the surface of the ground was drying. 2 more months went by, and at last the earth was dry. Then God said to Noah, "Leave the boat, all of you, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Release all the animals, the birds, the livestock, the small animals that scurry along the ground, so they can be fruitful and multiply throughout the earth. So Noah, his wife, and his sons and their wives left the boat. Can you imagine the happy dance? Oh my gosh. That had to be like, we're out of here. Oh my gosh, that had to just be amazing. Not to mention fresh air. That had to be like spectacular. Verse 19, we are in chapter 8 of Genesis. And all of the large and small animals and birds came out of the boat, pair by pair. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and there he sacrificed as burnt offerings the animals and birds that had been approved for that purpose. Remember at the beginning, he said, get onto the boat, this many, which was more than 2, of those that are going to be used for sacrifices, and then 2 by 2 by 2 of these other ones. And the Lord was pleased with the aroma of the sacrifice and said to himself, I will never again curse the ground because of the human race, even though everything they think or imagine is bent toward evil from childhood. I will never again destroy all living things. As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night. End of chapter 8. Hey, Ann, how are you doing, girlfriend? I noticed you sent me a text the other day and I never saw it, and it was past the date when I did see it. Sorry about that. Miss you too, big time. Hello, Eric. Welcome. Denise, welcome. Glad to have you with us. We are in Genesis chapter 8. And just did a read through, and now we're going to break it down. So the first section is people, and this one's going to be pretty easy because wiped everything off the earth. So go ahead and put in the comments who you see as people in this chapter. Starts right off the bat with God and Noah. And then the others are not mentioned till a little later, but then we have his wife, sons, their wives. And that's it. God, Noah, wife, sons, and their wives. And from here, we go to verses. What verses stand out? It really is one ongoing story right here, so I don't think we can break it up into different sections. So are there ones that just stand out to you, either summarizing this section or with a greater truth that just really stands out to you? Just go ahead and write those in the comments if you see one. I'm going to go with 9. And that was, the dove could find no place to land because the water still covered the ground. It returned to the boat and went back inside. So this was the first time the dove found no dry land. Now, if you notice, it's just kind of slipped in there. He sent a raven first. We never hear about the raven. The raven gets no pictures in cartoons or in children's books. He never came back, or he came back with bad news. I don't know, but we never hear anymore about the raven. We just hear that he sent first a raven, and the bird flew back and forth until the floodwaters of the earth had dried up. So I guess it just stayed out there and just kept flying. But then we hear in 9, he chose a dove and released that, and it came back. And then after waiting an additional 7 days, we hear in 11, which I'm going to go with next, that the dove returned with fresh olive leaf in its beak. Now this beckons many questions. Let me see what else we've got here. The funny part of us reading this, there was a thing posted on Facebook showing Noah in the water waiting for the snails to go onto the ark. Nice. And waited and waited and waited. And then there was the tortoise and the hare. Guess who ended up getting on first? Yeah, that tortoise, because the hare was messing around, playing games, knowing he had plenty of time. Okay, that's not in there, but it's in one of those books. That's pretty good, Ken. Thank you. So what this really brings up for me is this. The waters are receding. Now we know it's months and months. It's not going to all recede from the same spot at the same time because, you know, let's say my head is a mountain. You know, water's up here, you can't see the mountain. We know it comes down. You start to see, trying to get straight here. Everything's backwards on there, so it's like I have to go opposite direction to get it right. And throwing that, I'm dyslexic. Anyway, so it starts to come down and you see the peak of the mountain, and then it continues. You're not going to have everything doing that at the same time, because if there's something over here and, you know, that's coming down at the same time, something over here could be growing where over here it's not yet. You know, I get that. But the idea that, you know, God populated the earth the first time around. Now he kills it all off. If you're going to have water over soil for 150 days plus a couple more months, I mean, those plants aren't going to just pop back up, which would tend to make me believe, if we're looking at the story as a literal story and not a, what do I use a word here for? Not a parable, but to tell a greater truth, you know. And uses the flood to tell that story, then that would be different. But if we're looking at it as a real event, and we know that there's been different research done on a great worldwide flood, and there's lots of different tidbits out there that say it could have happened, especially in this area, or starting in this area. Worldwide means all of it. But then all of a sudden, here is this new, fresh growth of olive leaf. So that would tend to make me think, I don't know if you've ever thought this deep into it, but that God replenished. Because when all those animals come off, they're gonna need food. And they can't wait, you know, for man, as in Noah and his sons, to plant everything. So that would tend to tell me that there was another creation that happened while the water was receding. Does that make sense? You guys ever thought about that? Or am I overthinking? Hi, Suzanne. Welcome. We are in chapter 8 of Genesis and just talking about the little things that we're seeing in there. The poor black raven that never gets much mention, and now that olive leaf and how that would have grown other than by the hand of God to be available to come back and show Noah. Anything else jump out at you guys? I'm gonna go with 18 for my next one. So Noah, his wife, his sons, and their wives left the boat. Noah and fam left the boat. The big pate. Pate. Can you imagine what that had to be like? You're talking, oh my gosh, what were we at? 7, 8, 9.5, couple more months. You're talking a year, no matter how you look at it. It's one thing, which would be tough enough, to go on a cruise for a whole year with lots of amenities. But to go on a cruise for a year with a bunch of animals to care for, to get food to take their waste and disperse it outside the boat, I would hope. Maybe they had poop chutes. I don't know, doesn't say. But to do that for a year, wow, it had to be a celebration when they jumped off of that baby. And then lastly, I've got to say something about God's words. And notice, he said to himself. So this is not him saying it to Noah. This is him saying it to himself. I will never again curse the ground because of the human race. That would be 8:21. God said to himself, I will never again curse, get the ready, the ground because of the human race. He's not going to punish one for the sins of the other. All right, let's go to application. Any application in there? We have been really talking about this section of Genesis really being historical. It tells us the heritage of the human race. It tells us the relationship God has with his people and how broken it is, so much so that he's willing to wipe the slate clean. But not a whole lot of application in there. Looking at this section, I would have to agree, other than saying that maybe an application out of this, a greater truth is that God can change his mind. Now I say that because earlier God said, I'm done and I'm going to wipe them from the face of the earth. Now he doesn't say that they're not evil. He doesn't say that they're, all going to be good now. Notice he doesn't say that. Just because Noah was righteous doesn't mean his kids are, or that he will continue to be. I say that as a little precursor of some action that's coming up in a couple of chapters. But what he does say is, even though everything they think or imagine is meant toward evil from childhood. Now you can sit there and argue that and go, oh, children aren't evil. Maybe not evil, although these are God's words. But think about children and the way they treat each other. Mine, smack, bite. It's pretty early. All about me, all about me. That comes naturally and early. We have to teach sharing, right? They don't just automatically do it. Once in a while you get an amazing kid, but that's something we have to teach. No, mine, that kind of thing. So you can see where this is coming from. But God decided, even though he had made this decision earlier, he decides, I'm not going to do that again. So that's one greater truth that comes out of that. His mercy is greater than his wrath. Amen, sister. Great way to say that. His mercy is greater than his wrath. I'm going to write that down. Notice in this text, though, who the mercy's for. Not for the people. The way I read this, the mercy is for the ground itself. Even though everything they think may be bent, as long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night. So earth itself, he has mercy on and says, I'm not going to put you through another flood like this, which threw everything into chaos. All right, last section is imagery. And what do we have here? Anybody? We've got all the wild animals. We've got livestock, so farm animals. We've got the boat. We've got the water stopping. We've got the flood waters, if I can say that, receding, if I can spell tonight, receding. We've got the raven, we got to give him credit, flying out. We've got the dove going out, back in, back out. And then, oops, shoot. Boy, it's the second time I did that tonight. I don't know why it's doing that. Catching the cord or something. Let's try that again. The dove out, back in, back out, and then back in with, why can't I say it? Olive branch. Yes, the altar. Thank you. And the sacrifice. What else do we see in here? We've got leaving the boat. First the family and then all of the animals. And then we've got God thinking or saying to himself. All right. So we've got 8:9, the dove found no dry land. 8:11, the dove returned with fresh olive leaf in its beak. 8:18, Noah and fam left the boat. 8:21, God said to himself, I will never again curse the ground because of the human race. Application, God can change his mind. His mercy is greater than his wrath. And then visuals, we've got water stopping, floodwaters receding, all wild animals, the livestock, the boat. We've got the raven going out, the dove going out, back in, back out, back in with the olive branch. We've got the altar, the sacrifice, and then we've got everyone and everything leaving the boat. Wonderful. So today I've been saving this image for this week because I wanted to use it for this. This is out of that book I've been using in Genesis. And what I wanted to do was some three-dimensional. So what I did is I cut it out of the book. And then I've got a slight bend along each of the two wings and where they meet the body. So like this. Can you see that? We'll do it up like this. And what I want to do is connect this part down and leave these so that they can kind of flop up when this page is open. They'll flatten when the book is shut, but I think it'll still pop up some. Okay? And then I've got this one with Noah's hands and the dove coming back into them. So I've just got to figure out how to get this on the page because I did some work on there last week too, and this comes across on the same page. So I'm going to move this. And go down right around there. Turn this around. So last week I had brought this one in. I had a couple over here and then this one with the storm still coming and them looking out. So I think what I want to do is put this one here and maybe up here or over here. Because there's already some over on that side or down here. Oh, I kind of like that. But then where does this little fella go? I don't want to cover up scripture. Don't want it to be under there. Maybe right on top of here, but then that flips over. Decisions. Or maybe I don't even keep this in here. Let me see if it's movable or if I'm going to rip my page. It looks like it's coming off. Double-sided tape. Doing a test here. Can we take double-sided tape off after it's sat a week and not rip the page of our Bible? And I think the answer is carefully. I wanted that on there because it was covering the bleed through from the page behind it, but I've been waiting to put this picture in and I really thought the two would work together, but I don't think they will. So I'm going to slowly pull out like that. I've got a couple of pieces left on here. I'm going to pull up. And then decide what I'm going to do with this. It's still a little sticky, so any place that I don't end up with, I might have to, I think maybe an eraser will do this. I'm gonna grab an eraser and show you something. Sometimes you can use a good clean eraser, not one of those old ones that dries out and just puts color on the page. And you can pick up glue with it. Yep, it's coming right off. So what you don't want to do is go this way because then when I come back it's going to rip the page. But if I hold the page with my fingers nice and taut, I can actually erase that glue right off here. Any place where I feel it, I can erase that right off. And that way, I don't have to cover all of this area. I can just cover the parts that work for me. So I'm gonna look and see where I'm going to so I don't have to waste my time erasing stuff that I'm not gonna have open anyway. But let's see. So this is flipped, so I can't really do this. If I could do this, I could flip it open like that and then have the bird above, which I think works. So I'm gonna have to get all of this that's up higher off, and it comes right off, no problem. I'm gonna take it all the way down. So rather than folding this, I'm just going to have it fold on the edge and come in. Just like that. You can rub your fingers across it and see if there's anything sticky still. That's where you go back and erase. Otherwise, you can see right down here, it comes right off, which is pretty amazing. But it does. I think I'm just about got it. Something right there. Looks good. All right, how's that for a fix? Okay, so I'm gonna come in. We'll just cut off this extra over here. So I'm going to flip this and draw right on that edge so I know where to cut. Like that. Oops, flip my page. Like that. And then I have to have enough space here to put in a tape, unless I'm gonna go underneath with tape, which I could do as well. Let me see what I got that looks like that brown. What you doing, Bella girl? What you doing, Bella girl? So I'm looking for a darker brown. I have some lighter brown here, but I'd like something darker than that to match the wood. Even though it's on the back side, I guess it really doesn't matter. Polka dot brown. It's a little bit darker. I'm gonna go with that one. So what I'm gonna do is on the back side here, I'm gonna put it half and half, and then I'll decide if I need any on the front. So I'm gonna lay this out upside down so I can see where the halfway is. I'm gonna lay that in like that. Press that down. And then I'm gonna just fold it on itself, just like that. And then I can come in backwards. Go up some. And set that in, and then fold it down. Now I've got this little corner that's going to grab the next page, so I'm gonna have to cut that out. Show you what I mean here. If I leave this little corner of tape, when I shut the page, the other page is gonna grab that. So I'm gonna have to just cut out that little corner because the corner of the boat is off. But what that does allow me to do is come back down into the corner of the page. So like that. And then when I want to read the text, I can just pick it up. If I want to do something on the back of this, I can. If I want to do something down here, I think I'm going to do that as well. But right now, I'm going to get this in. So this one, I'm going to tape only on the body. Anytime you want something to be three-dimensional, pick an area in it that you want the tape to be on and flat, and don't put tape on anything else. I am going to this olive because it's so tiny, I'm afraid it's gonna rip if not. So I'm just going to put put the tape in there where it came in between. I'm just gonna pick that up with my pencil, and it works kind of like a rubber band, and it'll come right back onto the piece and not have any in those spaces between it. So now I'm gonna come over here, decide where I want it, because once I set it down, it's gonna be there. Coming down into his hands, up. I think I'm gonna go up to here. Just enough so where these can still be in. Come on in. Oh, is it locked? Sorry, hold on a second. Sorry about that, I didn't realize it was locked. Bella, enough. Sorry, you guys. We're on live. My class is on live on Facebook. That's okay. Okay, I'll be done in probably half hour, 45 minutes. Bella, enough. Sorry. Don't set the alarm, just do the push bars. Yep. You want to do the daycare alarm? Yes. And then I'll turn off lights and lock on my way out. And do the alarm. Do the alarm. Thank you. Sorry about that. Bella, gosh, you're such a loud mouth. Now, if you can imagine what it would be like on the ark with more than one Bella. Sorry about that. I brought her in here because I was the only one here tonight, and she came to work with me and usually just sits down in my office while I'm in here. And Eric just came in the door, and Eric's not around much. He's early in the morning maintenance guy, so she doesn't see him, and she just considered this a total intruder and in mom's space. So sorry about that. Hey, Mike, how are you doing? Nancy, welcome. Janet. Yeah, you'll hear a little bit. I like what you did with the bird. Thank you. Ken, will keep your heart test in prayer. Wonderful. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Lori, to hear that. I was just here listening. I will watch the replay, not feeling well. You get some rest. All right, so let me take it back down and show you what I was doing before Bella started in on her rant. Okay, so what I did is I folded that. I've only put the double-sided tape on the bird center and on the olive branch, so it has some stability. I'm going to put that right up here. I just want to make sure that when it goes flat, it's still in the book and not outside of the book. It looks like right there will be about it. So I'm going to push just this part down and that olive branch because I didn't want that to be ripped off. And then these can go up like that. And then you see that movement in there. You can see that all right. And then this can go up. Now I still want to do something here to cover this and just to have something there. So I think what I'll do is just bring some of this water that I used last time. Where is that? And put some rows of that in here. You could put a word, you could put a picture. This would be a cool place where you could do a drawing of the land receding or the water receding in the land above it. That might work. Is this going different? I guess it is. There we go. Trying to line it up. Something like that. Over on this end, I'll just peel that up and cut it. them all and then cut it. So just adding a little texture down here. Color. Couple more. And then I just had an idea. I'm gonna come back and get some land. Most of my nature ones are at home, but I'm sure I've got some. This one's trees. Let's see if I have one that's plants. Oh, I don't here. I've got flowers. I'm gonna bring one from home because I know I have some that would fit that perfectly. Oh, this will work. This has got little plants. And just kind of put that above ground. Starting to recede. Now each of these I'm going to peel up and cut back along that line so you can still see the lettering or the wording. Get all these off my fingers. Still not very straight. I think I'll get a X-Acto knife at home and just run along there real carefully, and then I can cut some of those off a little bit better. And then this flips back, but I do want to highlight in here something in the text. So I'm gonna get a light blue. It's more aqua. That one's a little better. Let me see what I want that to. The dove could find no place to land because the water still covered the ground, so we turned to the boat. His hand drew it back inside. After waiting another 7 days, he released the dove again. This time, it returned in the evening with a fresh olive leaf in its beak. So highlight that in there, like that. And close this back over and see how this closes up. Yep, that works. So hope you're having fun with yours. Next week, we are going to do 9, and then we will move on. We'll be off for the summer and come back in September, and we'll pick up in 10 and go through the rest of Genesis, which will take us all year. To do that. So if you're doing something, go ahead and take a picture and put it down in the comments. I'd love to see what you're up to, what you've been creating. If you do different stuff during the week, you can put that on Bible journaling, Sassy Bible journaling as well. On the opposite page is that gelato. Actually, that is just colored pencils. I went very lightly with colored pencils. This was before I started the study with you, so this one was already done. But it's just, if I can get close enough, you can see that it's just really light, what I call side swipe. Let me grab, well, I can't do it with this one. Let me grab one and I'll show you, Donna. So what you want to do is get your colored pencils sharpened really long. By really long, let me show you the difference. When you get them, they're usually a short sharpen, quite an angle. I prefer a long, see the difference there? And that's just using a regular pencil sharpener from home. You'll get a longer. And what that does, look at the amount of color I get comparison. So when you try to do a background with a really small one, you get more of a drawing tip. You get lines. But if you get a long one, then what you get, I'm going to do it right on here, is the fading. So I'm going to turn this down so you can see it again. I'll do a couple to show you how you can blend one to the other. So you lay it on the side, you hold it like this, like you're picking it up, and that's the way you draw with it. Not like this, because you can't get it low enough, but like you're picking it up with all your fingers, and you hold it like that, and let the side of it run along the paper, not the tip. So there's no lines. You just get that faint color. And then you can go to another color. Again, using the long side of it. And you can go right over top some of it, which will start to blend those two. And then keep going. By how hard you push is how much color you're going to get. But you don't get our lines. It's all texture. Then I can come back in with a third color. Again, using the long part of it. Overlap some of it. And then keep going down. And I'm just moving my arm from my elbow up. My shoulder out to my elbow is not moving, but from my elbow up it is. And you can see how you can get that real faint, gradual change of color. And that's what I did here. I started at the top with yellows and then went orange and then red and then purple, blue, green, and yellow. And basically, because this said, I hereby confirm my covenant with you, and he says this next week, don't get ahead of yourself, is all about the rainbow. So I used the rainbow colors to put that in, and then just used marker on top of that. Let's see if I can get this up to you. To do the lettering. Thank you for asking, though. Anybody can do that with the colored pencils, especially if you don't have gelato. Gelato is faster, easier, but it's not like that took me even 5 minutes to do that, 2 minutes and you can have a background done in. You're very welcome. Have a background done in color pencil as well. Let's see if there's any other questions in here. All right, looks like we're all set. So one more week. Next week, we'll finish up with chapter 9. And actually, you know what? I think we're going to do 9 and 10 next week, because 9 and 10 brings us to the conclusion about Noah, and then we go on to the descendants. So let's plan on that. Neither is that long. I don't think it would be a problem for us. We'll double up for our last week, and we'll do 9 and 10, and then be ready for a summer break. Hope you guys are all doing well. Prayers for those of you who've got some health concerns coming on, and you're trying to deal with those, and others who aren't feeling well. Know that we're here for you, and we'll certainly be lifting you in prayer. If you need something other than prayer, if you need soup brought over, if you need a place to cool off, you know, those kinds of things that we can be helpful with, please let us know that too. We want to be your community of faith, not just a place that you jump on and we don't care about you. All right, take care, everybody, and enjoy this weather while we got it, because it'll be gone before you know it. And I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.